Hello everyone. Today's topic is this house believes that corporations should adopt the practice of radical transparency. We define that the information is accessible only to employees of the company. In addition, personal data of customers and other confidential information will be protected. And I will start my speech. And today, one of the most serious problems in corporation is harassment, such as power harassment and sexual harassment, which damage the dignity of employees. We believe that radical transparency is the most powerful and fundamental solution to completely eliminate harassment from within companies, which traditional governance could not prevent. And first, when we consider why harassment still exists in modern corporation, it is because in many malicious acts and unjust pressure take place in closed room, hidden from public view, and harassment occurs and escalates in place with information asymmetry, such as one-on-one meeting room, local private chat, or projects that only specific member can access. And even if victims speak up, it becomes a he said, she said argument with no evidence. And the harsh reality of today's society is that weaker employees end up suffering in silence. And current countermeasures such as an anonymous hotline or HR consultation often fail because they operate after the damage is already done. Furthermore, victims are often terrified of retaliation from their superior if they report the behavior through their closest channel. Traditional governance simply cannot break this wall of silence. However, if we introduce radical transparency, this situation changes completely. All conversation, meeting, report, and chat histories are recorded, and every employee can access them at any time. And this brings two great benefits. First, overwhelming deterrent. No one would dare to commit power harassment or sexual harassment in an environment when their words and action can be seen by everyone, including boss and executive. And just as more cannot grow where sunlight hits, inappropriate behavior becomes virtually impossible in a 100% of open environment. Second is the absolute protection of the victim. Even if an uncomfortable interaction occurs, the log is completely preserved in the system. It cannot be covered up And since the evidence is open from the start, victims do not have to suffer in isolation, and the company can instantly make an objective judgment and take appropriate action. The opposition may argue that an environment where everything is constantly recorded and watched places excessive stress on employees and destroys psychological safety. However, that is incorrect, and true stress comes from the unexternality of the unknown, such as not knowing who is talking behind your back or worrying that your boss might be unfair manipulating your evaluation in a closed room. And finally, creating an environment where employees can safely demonstrate their abilities without fearing harassment is the greatest responsibility a corporation must fulfill. Mm. Radical, trans- Radical transparency is a groundbreaking system that eliminates company politics and misconduct in closed room, possibly guaranteeing a healthy work environment through technology. And so we propose this motion. Thank you.
Hello everyone. We believe that corporations should not adopt the practice of radical transparency. First, we speak on the premise that radical transparency is open to companies other than our own. Next, our team line is to create a society where people can think freely, innovated, globally, and progress sustainably. We have 2 points. The first point is protect the employees' psychological safety. The second point is protecting the engine of innovation. I will explain the first. Sorry. Uh, sorry. Next. We we revert our. I will revert the government's first point. Even if radical transparency is adopted, it is unclear whether victim will feel safe enough to come forward, even if there is no system in place to disclose information. The problem will not be solved unless there is no environment where people feel safe to seek help. And since people might only change their behavior when they know they're being watched, this does not constitute a fundamental solution, so it is not always true. I will explain the first point, protect employees' psychological safety. There are companies that do not adopt radical transparency. That's good things because it allows them to protect their employees' psychological safety. Psychological safety refer to an environment where employees feel comfortable expressing their opinions. As a result, employees can actively voice their opinions without feeling the pressure of being watched. In other words, it prevents the still feeling of employees' innovations. After taking this motion, radical transparency is adopted and employees' psychological safety is uh, commi- com- compromised. In other words, employees' innovation is not nothing. I will explain the process. First, radical transparency is adopted. This led to situation where the, via- virtually everything is made public. Employees feel pressured by the fact that everything is made public and they find it's difficult to share fearless, fearless or unfinished ideas. They lost their intuitive active and stop offering opinions as a much frank dis discussing discussing decrease creativity and problem solving abilities decline. Their innovation is down and psychological safety is lost. That is very important because good ideas.
COI.
Yes, please.
As we talk about mental stress from being as they said, talk about mental stress from being recorded, but we think about the victims of harassment from them. The real mental stress and danger comes from the invisible black box where their suffering is ignored. So what do you think about it?
But I think hmm? uh, sorry, talk later. I will continue my speech. And they innovate a good idea once emerge, and the company wants benefit from them. This is important because a loss of psychological safety has a serious impact on both uh, they and the company. When they can become afraid to speak their minds, share their con, or take on new challenges. Problems become harder to find and new ideas are less likely to come up. As a result, innovation decreases, teamwork weaken, and the workplace culture based on fear rather than cooperation is formed. The company lose its ability to adapt to change and stay competitive, make long team growth difficult. So, so uh, it is radical transparency is adopted and their psychological safety is safety is a loss and in their innovation is loss. So we propose Sorry, we oppose this motion. Thank you.
We believe that corporations should adopt the practice of radical transparency. I will explain our second point. Employees can get more motivation. Now, many companies don't operate on the practice of radical transparency, and in many companies, there is a decline in employee motivation and an increasing turnover of highly skilled workers in many organizations. The reasons behind promotions and performance evaluations are often unclear, leaving employees uncertain about how their efforts are being assessed. As a result, they frequently develop a sense of distrust towards the system because they don't understand how their work is being evaluated. For example, an employee may have worked the longest in a team and produced high quality results, yet a different team member is promoted instead. The company only explains the decisions as a general evaluation without clearly showing the criteria or how each part of their work was assessed. As a result, the employee doesn't understand what they were lacking or how they could improve. If we take this motion, they can clearly understand how their work contributes to the organization as a whole. If salaries, evaluation standards, and the who achieved what results and made fully open, employees can clearly see what is required to be rewarded and promoted. So radical transparency creates a fair competitive environment and helps increasing employees' motivation. If they are more motivated, there are three main benefits for them. First, it helps.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I freeze for a moment, so could you please repeat that again.
Uh, what? どこかな。じゃあ、ジャッジに聞くんで。excuse me, judges. A judge?
Yes. I didn't have any buffer problems from my side, but because of this pause, I paused the timer. So you may continue from where you were.
Okay. どこから
1分前ぐらいからです。
ちょっと待って。具体例のところらへんからOK。OK。I will start my speech. As a result, they frequently develop a sense of distrust towards the system because they don't understand how their work is being evaluated. For example, an employee may have worked the longest in a team and produced high quality results, yet a different team member is promoted instead. The company only explains the decisions as a general evaluation without clearly showing the criteria or how each part of their work was assessed. As a result, the employee doesn't understand what they were lacking or how they could improve. If we take this motion, they can clearly understand how their work contributes to the organization as a whole. If salaries, evaluation standards, and even who achieved what results are made fully open, employees can clearly see what is required to be rewarded and promoted. So radical transparency. あ、待って、待って。充電だ。
Okay.
So, radical transparency creates a fair competitive environment and helps increasing the employees' motivation. If they are more motivated, there are three main benefits for them. First, it helps prevent the loss of talented employees. When evaluations are unclear, people may feel that their efforts are not being rewarded and choose to leave. However, with radical transparency, performance is evaluated fairly, so performers are more likely to stay their company. Second, it reduces internal politics. When evaluation standards are hidden, employees may focus on gaining personal favor for managers or competing in unproductive ways with co-workers instead of focusing on real work. For example, employees may become yes men who agree with everything their boss says and try to gain favor of simply pleasing their superiors. This creates inefficiency and tension in the workplace. With radical transparency, but with radical transparency, these strategies lose their power because performance is judged based on clear and visible criteria. So employees can spend their time and energy on improving products and delivering value. And finally, it promotes initiative and innovation. When employees cannot see how decisions are made or how the company is performing, they tend to wait for instructions and avoid taking risks. But when information about the company's situation is open, employees better understand where problems and opportunities are. This encourages them to think like decision makers and actively propose new ideas, which leads to more innovation coming from the workplace itself. So, radical transparency is good for employees. And next, I will rebut their first point. They said radical transparency harms psychological safety and reduces creativity. However, this is not true because unclear environment actually reduce creativity. When evaluation criteria are not visible, people tend to avoid risks and choose safer options instead of challenging themselves. Therefore, when evaluation standards are clear and transparent, employees are more likely to take initiative and creativity is more likely to emerge. So it's not true. Therefore, I propose this motion. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Our team line is to create a society where people can think freely, innovate boldly, and progress sustainable. So we oppose this motion. Now the system of radical transparency has not been introduced. Information does not flow to other companies and it's competitive. The affirmative team loves to use the word transparency as if it is a magic solution for every problem. But we must work at the dangerous reality of the word radical. Radical transparency means a company must reveal everything, its future business and research and development data and internal board meetings to the entire world. Our argument is simple. Business is a competitive field, not a charity. If you force companies to show their entire hand to their competitors, you kill the very engine of our economy, innovation. We speak on the premise that radical transparency is open to companies other than our own. After taking this motion, meaning once we force corporation to adopt radical transparency will destroy the fundamental incentive for companies to take risks and invest in new ideas. We create a toxic market environment where no company can protect its secrets, and as a result, every corporation will stop trying to create groundbreaking technologies. This motion does not create honesty, it creates absurd economic stagnation. I will explain the process of how radical transparency destroys corporate competitiveness and market innovation in three clear steps. First, the process of immediate information leakage. When a company is forced to be radically transparent, its intellectual property and future product designs are exposed from day one. Competitors, especially those in countries with worse patent laws, can easily see what a company is developing. They will instantly copy the ideas and bring cheaper, cloned versions to the market before the original creator can even finish. Second, the process. In this step, because companies realize they can no longer protect their hard work, they change their behavior. They stop spending billions of dollars on long-term research and development. Why should a tech company or pharmaceutical company spend 10 years developing a new cure if their competitors can steal the recipe in real time? Corporations will become purely defensive, only focusing on short-term, low-risk profit. Third, the process of consumer loss. In the final stage of the process, because no company is taking risks, the market stops advancing. Consumers lose access to revolutionary products, clean energy solutions, and life-saving medicines because the incentive to innovate has been completely wiped out. Therefore, it is important because a society can't grow without corporate risk-taking and innovation. The affirmative team wants to protect consumers from corporate corruption, but we already have strict financial laws, independence audits, and government regulations to catch corruption. We do not need to burn down the entire house just to catch a mouse. Forcing radical transparency strips companies of their competitive edge and leaves our economy frozen. To protect progress and human potential, we must reject this motion. I will rewrite. They said motivation increased by publishing. However, it is not always true because there is possibility that this satisfaction with the published information will increase and motivation will decrease. Next. Even without radical transparency, people who want their efforts to be recognized still have the motivation to do their best. There are people who work hard even under the current circumstances. That's why radical transparency isn't really relevant. To create a society where people can think freely, innovate orderly and progress sustainable is most important. Thank you. We oppose this motion. Thank you.
Today's topic is this House believes that corporations should adopt the practice of logical transparency. So we have to focus on eliminating the corporate black box and creating a safe, fair environment where every employee can work with confidence. First, we will reconstruct our argument against their objections. Regarding our first point, they said, taking this motion is not directly solution of power harassment and sexual harassment, but it's not true because they didn't show why we could not solve harassment. Also, our point is reducing as many victims as possible and to create a safer environment where harassment is less likely to happen. Therefore, their debate is not engaged with the actual purpose of this motion. Also, our first point is important for employee because we have to focus on their working environment, which is important because employees spend a huge portion of their day at the workplace and their lives are deeply connected to their jobs. When toxic behaviors like poor harassment occur, it creates massive stress and direct damage the quality of their work. Therefore, we believe this motion is obviously necessary to reduce the mental toll on employees and protect their overall well-being. Also, the fact that harassment still exists today is clear proof that the current system cannot solve this problem. Next, leaders regarding our second point, they said taking this motion is connecting reducing competitive, but also advantages. But we define radical transparency not as disclosing all confidential information. Consumer data as customer data and strategically sensitive information are protected from the outset. So a company's competitive advantages is not undermined. Also, our second point is important for company and employees because we have to focus on eliminating internal distrust and creating solid trust between employee and company, which is important because no matter how much they are paid, employees lose motivation if they cannot trust the system. They think I will never get promoted anyway and give up. However, when there is trust, employees feel safe to take new challenges and share new ideas to get promotion. That's why we must eliminate internal distrust, so trust between company and employees. Finally, let's make our final rebuttal against their arguments. Regarding their first point, they said taking this motion is lose psychological safety, but it's not important in this motion because the argument is not about commenting on other people's ideas. This policy is introduced to evaluate a person's character and effort. Furthermore, having a certain level of tension in the workplace can actually lead to higher quality work. Regarding their second point, they say companies become defensive, but it's not important because this motion is not connect with the company's environment, because this is only inside companies and employees. So their second point is not important and not stand. Also, in their first point, as I say QA, they said taking this motion is low psychological safety, but when we think about the first, our first point victims, like people who get power harassment or sexual harassment, they getting damage of their mental health and physical health. So their first point is not stand. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuzuna. We think we oppose this motion. Our important point is to create a society where people can think freely, innovate boldly, and progress sustainably. It is important. It is because radical transparency undermines the trust and confidentiality necessary for organizations to innovate and function effectively. By avoiding radical transparency, we can preserve an environment where people can work with peace of mind, as well as the ability of companies to create better products and jobs. Ultimately, this leads to the protection of people's livelihoods and quality of life. So it is important. And next, I will summarize our first point. We said without psychological safety, companies lost the people and ideas that drive success. And our second point said imposing excessive transparency undermines companies' competitiveness and narrows our economic environment. It is important to protect progress and human potential. So our point is important. And next, I'll move on the attack. First, I think the higher the level of radical transparency, the more likely people are to engage in such behavior in individual places. If everything were made public, people would stop speaking in places where a record is kept, such as in information shops, private rooms, or sitting outside the workplace. Harassment doesn't disappear, it simply takes on different forms. In other words, might the introduction of radical transparency actually cause harassment to go undergoing ground and become more sophisticated, making it harder to detect. So it is not always true. And next, what's important in a company is not an environment where employees are constantly being monitored, but rather an environment where employees feel comfortable reporting problems. Radical transparency may lead to increased monitoring, but it doesn't lead to increased trust, so it is not always true. And next, harassment won't disappear simply through radical transparency. Couldn't it be resolved through a variety of methods, such as accountability machines and a healthy workplace culture? So it is not always true. And next,
You are
sorry, not everyone feels motivated. Some people might say that radical transparency boosts motivation, but others feel that they aren't as capable as that person. They find it painful to be constantly compared to others and see it as a burden. So it is not always true. And next, the opposing side might argue that through transparency boosts employee motivation because it allows everyone to see each other's results. However, this clashing with our view that making information public leads to a loss of physiological safety. Making results visible also breeds fear of failure and evolutions. Employees will become reluctant to voice unpopular opinions, admit mistake, or take risk. In the
you
short,
are.
okay.
Why would they stop talking if they are just doing their work? Their daily conversation are already open to other employees. So what do you think about it?
Employees find it difficult to share fairness or unfinished ideas. Employees lost their individual initiative and stop offering opinions as much. So it is not always true. I will continue my speech. In the short term, more people might put in the effort, but in the long run, the organization loses physical safety, which is far more important. Without physiological safety, concerns go unvoiced, innovation decline, and teamwork is replaced by a culture of fear. As a result, the company loses its ability to adapt to the future and its competitiveness. Therefore, our view is the better one. So the opinion doesn't stand. And next, I will summarize the first point more clearly. A loss of physical safety has serious consequences for both employees and the company when employees become afraid to speak their mind, share their concerns, or challenge the status quo. Problems go undetected and new idea fails to emerge. As a result, innovation decline, teamwork weakens, and a workplace culture based on fair rather than cooperation takes root. So our first point is important. And next, I will summarize the second point more clearly. This undermines long-term growth and profit, which ultimately has a negative impact on employees and consumers as well. So it is important. And therefore, this house believes that corporations should not adopt the practice of radical transparency. Thank you.
Hello everyone. This house believes that corporations should not adopt the practice of radical transparency. It is because protect employees' psychological safety and also protecting the engine of innovation. This is very important of team of to create a society where people can think really innovate globally, globally and progress sustainability. On this point, the idea is decrease harassment and up motivation. It is, but our idea is failure. It is because first, I will compare their opinion and our opinion viewpoint of positive impact for employees possibility. First, the idea is decrease harassment. It is very it is not it is low possibility. It is because might the in other words, might the introduction of radical transparency actually cause harassment to go underground and become more sophisticated, making it harder to detect. So, and our opinion is employee finds it difficult to after taking this motion, employee finds the difficult to share failures of unfinished ideas. They lost their interactive and stop offering opinion as much. So we opinion is more positive impact for employees. And our second point is very good, very strong. It is because imposing excessive transparency undermines companies' economic competitiveness and harm our economic environment. It is important to protect progress and human potential. So to create a society where people can think really, innovate, fully, and progress, sustainability is most important. So we oppose this motion. Thank you.
Now I will explain our stance. Our stance is that it is important to create a fair society and protect employees. Many employees are currently being evaluated unfairly, and the same are also experiencing workplace harassment. To protect their mental and physical health, we should introduce radical transparency. Next, the unique point of radical transparency is that it can both increase motivation and reduce workplace harassment at the same time by making actions and decisions more visible and people more responsible for what they do. The fact that all employees' conversations and actions are recorded can act as a form of pressure that helps prevent workplace harassment. So it is important to stop workplace harassment. Okay, next I will compare our point with their point. in their first point, they said that radical transparency harms psychological safety and reduces creativity. However, this is not true because we said unclear environments actually reduce creativity because people avoid risks when they do not know how they will be evaluated. In contrast, when evaluation criteria are clear and transparent, employees feel safer to take initiative, which leads to more creativity and innovation. So their argument is weak, and their second point, they said companies' competitive advantage will be lost, but we define that radical transparency not as disclosing all confidential information. Customer data and strategically sensitive information are protected from the outset, so a company's competitive advantage is not undermined. Therefore, their argument doesn't stand. And as we said in POI, employees talk about working related thing. So after taking this motion, they will not stop saying talking ideas and opinion, and they didn't answer about this question directly, so their opinion is weak. And therefore, radical transparency is important for employees. Therefore, so I propose this motion. Thank you.